Welcome back to another video of me trying to say things that might get me in trouble. Singapore is one of the very few rich countries in the world without a minimum wage. The only other developed economies that don't have it are Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Switzerland, and Iceland. So here's today's question. If almost every other country has some version of minimum wage to protect its lowest wage workers, why doesn't Singapore? So what is minimum wage? In its simplest terms, minimum wage is a law that mandates a wage floor that employers have to pay their employees. It is not intended to stimulate economic growth or productivity, but it is a welfare policy that ensures society's lowest wage workers can earn a defined minimum. Therefore, taken at face value, the minimum wage has the popular public perception of being a humane and pro-worker policy. In the context of Singapore, where monthly cost of living expenses can be fairly high, it is hard to disagree that there is something morally problematic about workers who struggle to make ends meet. Since GE 2020, the topic of minimum wage has been brought back by the Workers' Party. On the 12th of October, the leader of the opposition, Pritam Singh, proposed a universal minimum wage floor of $1,300, going so far as to call it a moral imperative. It is argued that this figure of $1,300 is what an average 4-person household in Singapore would require for a basic standard of living. An estimated 32,000 people, or slightly over 1% of Singaporeans, fall into the category of earning below $1,300 a month. Singapore is a wealthy country with deep reserves and high standard of living. What then is stopping the PAP from legislating a minimum wage? They can't possibly be willing to throw away votes just to win an argument, right? The PAP's anti-minimum wage stance has long historical roots in the country's early beginnings. The early leaders rejected a minimum wage because they wanted to keep our labour market conditions open and flexible to attract foreign investors. But today there are three key reasons for halting the adoption of universal minimum wage. The first is what many economists acknowledge would happen if a minimum wage was set at too high a level: unemployment. In the best case scenario, even if it may help some workers attain a higher wage, it would create unemployment elsewhere and put existing workers out of jobs. What this means is that the minimum wage might result in unintended consequences. This is not a controversial point. If taxes on cigarettes will discourage smoking, and taxes on carbon emissions will reduce energy consumption, then why shouldn't we expect a tax on labour to reduce employment? Secondly, Singapore has one of the highest average wages in the world at approximately $4,900 after taxes. This is on par with European and Scandinavian counterparts, which also lack a minimum wage. And finally, Singapore already has one of the lowest poverty rates in the world. Even the poorest in Singapore are still ensured subsidized schooling, a roof over their heads, and access to first world healthcare. In summary, the government's response has been, our system is not perfect, but it is doing much better than other countries in minimizing the problem. Of course, this reasoning is not convincing to everyone. Some may say that one person in poverty is still one too many. It is on this note that the government introduced a keyhole solution, the progressive wage model. We heard about this on the news, so what exactly is it? The progressive wage model was introduced in 2012 by then NTUC Secretary General Lim Swee Say after years of consultation between the government, union leaders, and employers. It's sort of a middle ground policy between some form of minimum wage and having none at all. It introduces wage ladders, but only at targeted sectors that have experienced wage stagnation for a long time, such as cleaners, security guards, and landscapers. They will earn fixed wage increases over a predetermined period of time, but only on the condition of basic skill upgrades like learning supervisory management skills or to operate advanced cleaning machinery. It aims to help workers improve their work prospects for their salary growth to be sustainable in the long run, rather than simply give a handout and say, okay, as long as I pay you $1,300, you cannot complain. It rejects a free universal wage floor in favor of a more targeted approach. The issue then lies with the estimated 32,000 people that the progressive wage model possibly does not cover. Low-wage workers are often trapped in poverty for reasons beyond their control, such as family problems or physical and mental health issues. Because if not, they can simply seek opportunities in other places. Do we pass on the cost of salary increment for disabled or less able workers to the businesses already hiring them? Or does it fall into social welfare? And if it falls into social welfare, why destabilize our business-friendly policies? There is a workfare income supplement scheme which tops up cash and CPF for lower wage workers to help address that. Together with the progressive wage model, it is a more holistic approach and appreciates the need for increasing economic productivity. A minimum wage would simply mandate higher wages but not make the economy any more productive. The progressive wage model is the PAP's acknowledgement that low-income workers need more help to progress in their careers. The government must play the role of protecting society's most vulnerable, but at the same time pursue economic growth that improves the standard of living for the average Singaporeans. The key message is this: attention to society's most vulnerable workers is important, but enlarging the pie of wealth so that there is more to go around should remain the main objectives. And these two goals are not mutually exclusive. Although the minimum wage discussion seems to primarily be about economics, many of its driving forces are political. It is obviously a popular way to win votes with the masses. The best way to see this is to take a look at the opposition's own minimum wage proposals, which omits the inclusion of foreign workers. Now bear in mind that foreign workers don't get to vote, so moral imperatives can off, I guess. No politician, not even the PAP, would try to win an election by proposing to abolish minimum wage, even when that number becomes stupid. As this debate progresses, it is important to keep in mind that any opposition figures can get away with populist suggestions, but the government must not.